Oh, dude, I gotta get this done.
I know. I'm looking. I'm hunting them down.
All right, hang on a second. I've got to find out how the hell I get back on here.
No, you were on. It was just,
See ya.
it goes
No.
down to 4 when it's the graphics up.
No, all I got is a blank screen here. I can't see your smiling faces.
Okay, we're live. So John, you can hear us, right?
I can still hear you. Yes.
Okay, so let's go ahead and move on. All right, so this is the Health and Recreation Committee meeting. Purpose of today's meeting is just to discuss the structure of the tree committee and try to move that a little bit along so we can get this in front of full council for their review and potential approval of a tree committee structure. So a couple things. I sent some documents around late last night. I apologize for late timing, but kind of swamped on a couple different projects, both in the village and at work. And I think you couldn't open up, there was a document called the Tree Commission Plan from 1986, we think it is, but we're not even sure of the date. I'll see if I can get that.
That's actually from the late 1940s through 1950s.
Okay, that's fine. But again, it's another plan that's out there. I don't think it's going to impact what we're up to today. I think we're all going to just acknowledge that there's several plans floating around. And at some point we need to reconcile, what exactly is going to be the new plan, by, taking into consideration of the John Nolan plan, the Eleanor Christie plan, this plan from the Tree Commission, if it was from the 1940s. But, I'm going to let that get reconciled in the future, and it's not anything we have to figure out today. I figure that's a good first task for the Tree Committee as we move forward. But again, I know some of you haven't been able to open that document up. I'll try to get it in a better format so you can see, but it's nothing, nothing in there that's, real critical for what it's not really needed for today's meeting. A couple things. I know we're trying to find out, Marcy, did you ever hear anything more from the NPF about, how much is available right now to spend on trees? I know you sent an email.
Well, they
Yeah.
Yeah, Mary Beth.
They just gave us
go ahead.
3,000 towards this last planting.
Okay. But again, I think the question was, and again, this isn't critical for today's
I
conversation
could run
either.
through those. Do you want to hear them, Joe?
Yeah, if you could.
So back in May of 2018, MPF set aside $10,000.
Okay.
And then after that, we had a total receipts of, well, it's not totaled up, is it? I'm sorry. You could add these if you want. I apologize. I thought it was totaled. It's another $2,020
Okay.
was given to us through different families and different organizations and different amounts. So
Okay.
that brought us to $12,020. And then we've had expenses of a total of $6,842.31. That's from 2018 until now with 2 tree programs.
Can you say that number again, Mary Beth?
So we had
6,000.
$6,842.31. So 1220 minus.
It's about 5,178 left.
Yeah, rounded up. Yeah, 5,180.
Right. All right.
roughly.
So,
Yeah.
all right, cool. So that is there available for future tree work is what I'm
Right.
hearing. Okay, good.
Right.
All right. That
Thank you,
helps.
Mary Beth.
Yeah, because the one thing that we probably got coming up is we've got a permanent improvement meeting in December about whether we're going to make any allocations towards trees as part of a permanent improvement. But part of that is also trying to determine what's our spend going to be out of our general fund for 2021. So this is where the push comes to try to figure out, okay, what do we think we're going to spend in 2021 for trees? Again, we don't have to decide that today, but we will be collecting various pieces of information to try to make that decision next month about, do we try to allocate additional dollars for trees? And the money available from the MPF obviously helps in that process to potentially allow us to do a little bit more. So, but again, I think this is something that this is
Well,
not.
if they have $5,100, I'd like to just say, hey, look, let them give us 2,000. We match the other 2. That gives us 4,000 for just planting trees next year. And then whatever we do decide on the budget, like we normally do, is 50 grand for tree work. That could be for the removals and trimming and all that other stuff. But we know for sure we actually have a budget just for tree planting that we,
Right.
because if we start doing that, we'll start rebuilding our tree structure. Because what we're running into right now is the trees that we have now have outlast their urban life.
Mhm.
Some of the trees on Cambridge that people were complaining about last year that I took out, those were actually recommended to come out almost 10 years ago. I'd say 10 to 14 years ago, because it was actually recommended after Jack Schreckenhofer because of the root rot.
Right.
They thought for sure those oaks were going to fall down.
But John, I think again, at this point, I would probably argue that why not try to shoot for using the full $5,000 and finding another $5,000 in our village budget. So we're spending 10,000 next year, because I think we are way behind on tree spending in this village.
Oh, I
And-
agree 100%.
And
I
I
agree
would
100%.
also make the challenge that we go find even more money, between grants and other places to try to make even more progress on dealing with what hasn't been dealt with in the past.
Hey,
Yeah.
Joe, let me interject here just 1 second. Mary
Yeah.
Beth might be able to help me on this. Way back when the tree kind of committee at MPF was being discussed, which I was originally part of, the $10,000 grant business, it was my understanding that essentially, and I was pushing for this, that be an annual grant, that MPF contribute the 10 grand annually to trees. Now, this is somehow sort of skidded off the radar a little bit. And we ended up in that first year, not spending anywhere near that. And they were just going to carry over the balance into the following year. And somehow this $10,000 annual contribution thing is sort of, like I said, fallen to the back burner. And I'm just wondering, and Mary Beth, like I said, join in, help me out here. If we shouldn't, try to sort of, kindly remind them, to one of the upcoming meetings, was that or was that not part of the original discussion?
I would have to check that. I don't have a recollection, to be honest, Bill.
Mhm.
And then the other piece, I don't mind even spending all 5,000, whatever, but I think that the money for MPF was supposed to be earmarked for historical, historical renewal projects. So
Yeah.
if we are doing 10,000 a year, I
You
think it's
mean
like how we've done 2
like
projects so far, like 2 specific areas with a lot of planting in 2 areas. And now the money that we have looking at for next year, John would already tell you that we have cherry trees that we still have to finish.
Yeah.
And then we're looking at maybe doing Chestnut Street. So that money's already kind of planned for next year. It has nothing to do with the trees that go in front of all these residences. I think it's 2 different funds.
That's fine, Mary
Yeah.
Beth, but somehow let's get this reconciled so we're all on the same page.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
Bill thinks there might be 10,000 a year out there.
Yeah, I don't
and-
recall that.
No, no.
But again, and again, some of this is we're in that time of the year where we're trying to work on our budgets for next year. And I have no problem in trying to work very hard about making sure we got enough money to start making some progress
Mhm.
and, dealing with what I call the tree issue within the village of Mariemont. We
Mhm.
got a lot of trees that are way past their prime. And so, the only way you're going to do it is bringing focus to it and trying to find the money somewhere to try to, address the problem as best we can.
And
Joe, when you say what you view as the tree issue, what is that?
The fact that I think we've taken more trees out than we've put in
Yes.
for a
Okay,
period of time.
but do you also want to budget for maintenance of those trees, training of those trees? You can't, it's not advisable to go in and plant every spot we have with a new tree next year if you get the
Right.
money through some
Right.
grant. Because then in 2 or 3 years, you've got all those trees that need training and pruning. And you're again aging out your tree canopy at the same time. It's much more advisable to plant a percentage every year to a good diverse planting, but also to take care of what you have. In the long term, it's going to cost the village less to do that. So it's like preventive maintenance on your car. And I don't see anything mentioned anywhere in the budget for that.
Right. Well, we've got,
Uh,
as John was alluding to, there's money being spent every year. And we talked about this in past meetings, how much we're actually spending on pruning and taking down old trees and taking out old stumps and all the rest of the stuff. We just need to make sure whatever the right number is. If you're telling me that there is a limitation on how much we should spend, unless we figure out how we're going to,
How are you going to take care of it?
maintain those trees. So it sounds like it's going to be a multi-year commitment. If we
Exactly.
decide, this level of tree planting, we better be ready for, the maintenance that's coming down the
Exactly.
road.
Exactly.
And that's fine, but that's coming up with a plan and getting everybody to adopt the plan and know what we have. But we can't,
Yeah. And that's what we've been discussing in our committee meeting.
I'm not a trees guy. I'm a numbers guy, but I look at the fact that, we've only addressed 2% of the streets in the last 3 years. And if I run those numbers out, it's going to be 50 years before we address the entire village. And by then, the problem's even worse. So somehow
Okay.
have
We've had
to-
2 meetings.
that-
The tree committee, as it is right now, has had 2 meetings.
okay.
We haven't even gotten our definition of what our tree ordinance is and what our purpose is yet. So that's not fair, I don't think, to say that in 2 years we've done 2 streets.
Well,
Oh, no.
for
No.
Now, what I'm
Hang-
saying
hang-
is for the
hang on a
past
second.
3 years, there was a project to address trees in Mariemont. And during that 3-year period, we've only addressed 2% of the streets. So
Yes.
somehow we have to expand the scope of this
Exactly.
process to get us better coverage. And again, it's going to
It
take
is a
money.
process, though, yeah.
I understand that completely, but I want to make sure that, we're all on the same page here, that we're going to create a tree committee that's going to have, develop this plan to try to address this stuff at a faster rate than what we have in the past. That's,
Yes.
that's where,
Yes.
where I come from.
Okay, so let me just recap real quick for everybody. Years ago, when let's go back to Mayor Adams. He was very proactive on the trees. And we planted all the trees. We did Murray Avenue on trees. We had the Allen Group come in, planted all those trees, just so, because we required that where we're going to put the bike path, we required that area back then, and that's why they planted the trees so that Duke Energy couldn't come back in and say, hey, whoa. They gave us that property. We were allowed to do what we were allowed to do. They planted the trees. They spent it so much money that in 1992 they ran out of money in the whole village. They had nothing in the general fund. They sold off property, but the property they sold off was for park funds. So all that money had to go in the park fund. So we laid off police and fire and maintenance people. Trees are very expensive. Back in 2018, when Karen came and donated the $10,000, that was just for trees for that year to help plant trees. So the rule of thumb is for every tree you take out, you plant 2. Well, the village doesn't have that money. We are still on the same budget that we had in 1992. Taxes have not raised since 1992 for an operating levy at all, or any kind of tree or anything else. So, I had an issue today, and that's why I'm bringing this up, was somebody brought up about the leaves not being picked up and how much money they paid. I told the lady, go on her auditor page, the Hamilton County auditor page. She only pays $8 a year because of the Homestead Act and everything else that she breaks. I mean, most of the property tax is only 10% to the village. The rest is to the school. She was shocked. She goes, oh my God, how? I said, yeah, that's all your trash, police, fire, maintenance, everything that we do here in the village for you, all your services you get, that's what you get for $8. She was ecstatic. She goes, oh my God, how come they haven't never raised our taxes? I said, because we didn't want to raise taxes because we were doing this. Trees are expensive. When MPF decided to come in 2018 and said, hey, we're going to give you $10,000. I don't know if that was per year or whatever, Mayor, sorry. I thought it was just for the 1 year, but we only used maybe 3,700 that 1 year because the maintenance took over. Right. Because once Nate Torps came in to plant, they didn't realize all these utilities were underground when they bid this. And they're like, there's no way we can put a tree here because of all the underground utilities. This is why I told MPF to keep your 10 grand. And that way, like on Elm Street, that was the example I got. It's only maybe a 3-4 foot area to plant. So you have to have a small tree to plant in there. You can't put an oak in there. It's not going to work. Over the years, we looked at Mary Emery's thing. I never had the John Nolan one I have now. I had something else. But the Eleanor Christie plan, we've now tweaked all that because like even on Homewood with the overhead utilities, same way with the Settle Road, the overhead utilities. You can't plant big maples and big oaks in those areas. Even if the planting strip's wide enough for it, you got utilities. So way back when I first started with Steve Sanford being our arborist, we had a great reputation with Duke. So we either had to L shape the tree or V shape it. I preferred the V shape. When the growth is there, the V, you can't even see the V. But yes, when all the leaves fall down, you see this big V with wires running through it. And people called and complained and carried on. And they wanted their trees out of there. So the administration we had, hey, they don't want that. Take the tree out, right, wrong, or indifferent. If it got into their downspout lines, if it got into any that kind of thing, we had to take a tree out because of that. No, the trees grow in there because there's holes in there. We fought all this stuff. This is why I want to redo this whole thing. And I think Joe and the health and rec, just, hey, yeah, let's look at this. Let's get a good tree program going for our future. Money wise, the village does not have the money for the amount of money that we spend on trees per year. They give me $50,000. We also had a beautification fund that probably came within the last 10 years of $25,000. And that was supposed to help out around the municipal building and other little parks and recs and stuff like that. But it turned out that after I spent over $50,000 on removals and trimming, that we used that $25,000 for other things plus planting trees.
Excuse me.
Some years that was gone and we didn't have anything. And like I said, for every tree you take out, you got to plant at least 2 to start going in there. You know, just because the guy doesn't like the gumball tree because they're tired of raking them up and all that stuff, and you slip and fall, that, you know, that's something we have to look at. What's really a good street tree to plant? That's where we're at. So right now I've got the committee of people that we have already on board going out to looking at all the districts and saying, where can we plant a tree so that I can budget and come to council and say, okay, hey, you know, really, we thought historical was bad. Hey, look at the north side. We've taken so many trees out over there that we need to start planting in this area. This is going to be our next area that we're going to plant. Okay, now, then we'll start looking at different streets and see how much is the right of way. Because sometimes the right of way is past that sidewalk, even like on Mount Vernon, there's a big right of way there. They don't have the sidewalks on the one side. So, you know, you got more room to wiggle to put trees in. And that's why we're breaking it down through address. So all we're looking at is, okay, this address, yeah, it doesn't look like, we don't have to write anything down. Okay, this address, hey, I think we can get 2 trees there. There's no utility lines. There's nothing underground, no utility boxes in the ground. There's more than 20 feet between the driveways, more than 5 feet between driveways. Obviously, you're not going to put a tree there. So this is what we're trying to do right now to develop a whole new program. Because in the past, it's been, well, the resident wants to do this. Let the resident, they're going to pay for it. Let them do it. Okay, then it becomes a major issue. And you next thing you know, you're cutting it down and everybody's fighting. And it gets goofy. So with Joe and everybody looking at this thing, I would like to just say, okay, let's just get one budget figure for planting trees. We know basically if the village does it minus, you know, we're working there, so it's going to cost the same amount that it costs us to do any other job. If we have to break it all down, that's no problem. I can break it all down what the cost is versus somebody else like Nate Torps or Site One. Usually when you use the people that have the trees, they're going to give you a discount because they're going to get warranty of the tree if they put it in. They'll give you a warranty. It may cost you $100 more per tree, okay, but that includes everything going in, the mulch and everything else. Then the maintaining. Maintaining has been based on the trimming and pruning, proper pruning of the village, the little trees has all been volunteer work. Because the maintenance doesn't really have one guy that can go out or 2 guys that can go out and just do tree work. I mean, you can keep them busy all year round. That's not, I mean, that's the thing. That the village someday decides to go out for a levy, that's one of the things we can bring up about the trees. How important are trees to you? If you look at this village and you look at Fairfax, and I'm saying this because the new number of meetings I've been to, even the gentleman from the Cincinnati Zoo has.
Scott. Oh, you just went silent.
John, you're freezing.
Shoot.
I really wanted to know what the Cincinnati Zoo guy said.
I think he's talking about Scott Berline, and anytime he does a tree talk, he'll show a picture of Fairfax, and then he'll show a picture of Mariemont, and he'll say, where do you want to live?
And based off of that picture, where do you want to live?
Everybody wants to live in Mariemont. I mean, you know, property values are high, air quality is better. Substantial trees have many, you know, financial and health benefits.
Okay, so we lost, is John
Hopefully
coming
John
back
will come
on?
back.
So bottom line, what I'm hearing is there's a lot of reasons how we got into the current status we're in. I mean, there was, never a focus on developing a plan is what I'm hearing, and everything was just kind of handled on a as exception basis.
Piecemeal.
And so, to me, that's not acceptable. I mean, we need to have a plan. We have to get, and to develop a plan, we've got to, go through this tough part about figuring out what do we want to do and what do we want to spend. And the whole idea that, for John's comment about the village doesn't have any money. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. We all understand that, but we've been really looking at our financials for the past 8 months, trying to figure out where we're getting our cash and where we're spending our amounts. And if we need to go for a tax levy to deal with certain things that have not been dealt with, whether it's the pool, whether it's the trees, whether it's the streets, we need the data to be able to explain that to citizens about why would we need additional tax revenues at this point.
There he
John, you're
is.
back. Hold on,
Now
you're
we
not
can't hear you.
connected. It's the magic of teleconferencing.
Yeah. We can't hear you, John.
It says it's still connecting.
Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah.
John, you're on mute at this point. So,
Unmute.
all right. So John, we were just saying that, okay, we understand everything you're saying about budgetary issues in the
Yes.
past and lack of plans in the past and, exception-based, decisions in the past, all those types of things. And I think we all agree that's not the way we want to do it in the future.
Correct. I
We-
agree
we-
100%.
Yeah. So
So I
we
think
need to
what we're doing now is a good thing.
Right. So we kind of spent a lot more time on that aspect of it. But again, I believe if the money's available and we think we can maintain them, Barb, thanks for that comment, because let's make sure we got the money for not only next year, but the years thereafter, as we have to nurse these plants along until they can stand on their own. That's a very good point, and the tree committee can kind of figure that stuff out. So we get a plan put together. Let me move on. So anything else on this topic? Anybody else have any comments?
If I could say one thing, we're doing a lot of legwork right now. We're doing a lot of research that's going to go into that decision, but it's a process. I mean, it's not like you can have an answer next week for how many trees are going to go on what street and what they're going to be and what it's going to cost. But we're doing a lot of research right now that it's going to at least give John the ability to tell you the numbers of trees that need to be replaced.
That's reasonable.
Yeah. And and like I said, we can always budget based on what trees we planted in the past, what tree costs now. There's nothing between a 2.5 and a 3 inch or a 3 inch and a 5 inch because they cut the roots back to make that ball. So really a 2.5 inch caliber is probably the best. It's probably one of the fast growing trees that we have. But like I said, maintaining and pruning, and that's a big issue. And, with volunteers, that can work out great with that. There's a lot of people that in this village that really love trees and are willing to help. All we have to do is just reach out to them and see what they want to do and go from there.
The only thing I would like to clarify is the survey that we have put out this week, and all of the committee members are actually inventorying what's out in the community, like the whole village we're doing. John's very aware of this project. Right now, we're slotted to finish it after the first of the year. And it sounds like we need to actually get this to you much sooner than that.
No, I think we're okay. I think
No.
Okay.
like our time plan, I think is still okay.
For you
I'll-
to
I'll-
generate the numbers,
Yes, yes,
Yeah.
is it? Okay.
yeah.
All we need to do is a rough number. You know, I don't have to know exactly where it's going. I mean, we're just trying to get our budgets put together for next year about, well, where we're going to spend money next year. So,
Well, John, we could talk about that within the group. And if you need it earlier, then we'll figure it out.
No,
Okay.
no, we're
We'll
still
work
good
with
on
you
the
and make it
timeline.
happen.
Yeah, no,
Yeah.
we're still good on the timeline.
Okay.
all right. Couple things here. I've still not been able to contact this Thomas Davis, who used to be our urban forester. So I don't even know if I need to at this point. I don't know if this guy fell off the planet or what, but you know, I can't find him. So, you know, just if anybody else has an idea about whether we should talk to him, I'm not sure it's critical. I don't know that he has anything, you know,
No,
to add. at
I'm
this
sure
point.
he was on a consignment type situation.
Okay,
You know the past.
right. No,
That's all I
but
can say.
you know, I think we've got enough, you know, information about prior, you know, work done in this area. So I think, you know, we can piece it all together and come up with a new plan. So,
Yes.
tree spending by type, I think, John, you're still working on that with Allison. And again, I don't need it for today, but it might be helpful in the future. So we know what our past spending patterns have been. Then that helps us to predict. I'm a big believer in taking the past to predict the future. So if we know what we spent in the past, then we have an idea about what we should be spending, you know, in the future, and whether we're going to make any changes to that. I did circulate this tree advisory board suggested structure summary, and I kind of used the document I found from the Urban Foundation that
Arbor.
basically Arbor Foundation. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
You know, it's kind of a template, and that's what I wanted to kind of go over today, because I wanted to go ahead and try to get consensus on this is our suggested structure, so we can get it to full council for their review and approval, hopefully at the next council meeting, so we can get moving. I did have one additional thought. I put in membership that should consist of a minimum of 7 and a maximum of 9, but I would say a minimum of 5, just in case we can't find enough people. You know,
Yes.
I don't want to put people on there that don't have a passion to do this or an interest. I don't want to just fill spots like we've done in the past for some of these open advisory boards. Marcy and Avia, what do you think about that?
I think not limiting this, to by 7 is good. I think lowering it to 5. I mean, right now, I think we have 5. Is that right?
Almost 5,
I'm
but
not sure.
I've got several other people that are interested that are very tree lovers. But I think 5 be the minimum and about 7 being members. You can always have more members, but as long as your board is like 5, then you can always have the other, because they're the ones that are going to be the actual major decision, and then we bring that to council.
Right.
Cincinnati and Centerville, one of the bigger, largest areas. That's what they have. They have the 5 and 7.
Right.
And then they have anybody else, associates or whatever, or just general public that comes in to give their thoughts and what they want, and then you listen to those people as well. So I think if we do the 5 and 7, I think that's fine.
Well,
Wasn't-
I would like to just take it to 9 so we don't have to go back to council again. So anywhere between 5 and
Okay.
9, you're good. I mean,
Okay.
the whole idea is to have full council approve this structure. And then the tree advisory board will develop their own bylaws and go through that process and bring those back. You know, this is what we did with the pool board, that the tree
Yes.
committee decides, the tree advisory board decides how they're going to operate. We're not going to, we're not going to, how best to say this, demand them to do stuff, in that much detail. They're going to figure out how they're going to do their structure, how they're going to do reports. They have to keep council and the mayor advised of what they're doing, but it's their group to figure out how to do it. They pick their own chairperson, vice chair, secretary. I don't want the council trying to be responsible for getting in that much detail on these committees. I think that
No,
just leads to
no.
trouble.
I agree with you 100%.
So do I.
All right, so that's the membership section. The term of office, 2-year staggered terms. In the first year, half of the board will be appointed for a 1-year term. So we get the staggers thereafter. That's kind of what's in there for
Yes.
that one.
Yes.
Marcy and Avia, any problems with that as far as term of office?
I have one point to make.
Yeah.
If we all commit to or try to commit to doing the Tree Commission Academy, that's at least a 2-year process to get the knowledge.
Okay.
That would have
Well-
people leaving when they've just finished learning what they needed to learn. We talked about with Wendy at our last meeting about trying to stagger it, but we didn't come up with, we were going to,
No.
Wendy, John, and I were going to talk about our organizational structure.
Yeah, no, this is fine. This is fine what we have right there for the term of office.
Yeah,
The-
all this is, Barb, is we can reappoint people, you know.
Okay.
Yeah,
Read
so,
up.
so this is just starts it off, that half is 1-year term, half is 2-year terms. And then, you know, you reappoint next year to get on that staggered basis. So it's just
Okay.
a way to
Okay.
kick it off and get the stagger built into the process is what the whole goal is here.
Okay.
You know, I would love people to serve longer because then we're going to get the knowledge and they're going to go get the education, because it's one of the things we put in is one of the requirements is we're going to expect members of the tree committee to either come to the table with a basis of knowledge, you know, either through their past experience or, you know, working the job that they do, or go get that knowledge. So, you know, we're going to have qualified, educated people serving on this board.
Yes. Yeah,
All
we're
right.
good there.
Officers, again, the board shall annually select one of the members to serve as chair, vice chair, and we probably need a secretary to keep the minutes and stuff.
Yes, yes.
You know, meetings, you'll meet a minimum of 4 times a year, probably more, I would imagine.
Yeah, yeah. Tree City is 6.
Okay. Should I just put
So-
6 in there then?
Yes,
All right, done. All meetings shall be open to the public. And again, it's just usual, it's good transparency. Usually no one will show up for these meetings. But you know, it's just, you know, they should be open to the public. Board chair may schedule additional meetings as needed. Minutes of all meetings shall be made available to the mayor and all members of village council. That just keeps us informed about what you're up to.
I have
yes. The
one
past, we
question.
have not done that.
And
I have one question for you though.
Yeah.
Wendy Van Buren, we don't do our meetings via Zoom. We have to do it via another vehicle for her security.
Okay.
Remember that?
Yes,
So
ODNR, yeah.
we would need to check with her to make sure we're able to make them public, I would think. I mean, I
yes,
don't
they
know
are.
that
They are. Okay. So ODNR does not like Zoom because Zoom can be broken into.
Okay.
So that's why they have this other thing that they
Platform.
use. But if anybody's interested in the, you know, we can announce that there's going to be a tree board meeting on such and such a date. If you're wanting to be involved in the tree board meeting, give us your email. We'll make sure that you're able to sign in.
Okay.
It's a very secure system, not like Zoom that you can get hacked in or anything like
I
that.
just wanted to
So,
make sure that we were able to do that with her.
Yes.
so.
Right.
yes, we're good
Okay.
on that.
Okay.
All right. And now as far as duties, kind of listed the things here, assistant of development of a street, and I call it street trees because that's what's going to be the focus
Yes.
of the committee to start with. And because we got 2 classifications, street trees and park trees in this
No,
village.
we're not worrying about parks right now.
No, but yeah, so street tree master plan that updates the schedule of recommended street trees for planting with adequate consideration given to the Nolan and Christie plans, and develop a list of prohibited species. So, I mean, that's, you're all kind of doing that already, but just get that schedule put together. This inventory assessment of the existing street trees, it sounds like you're already started on that process, so that's already there.
So
Go
what we're
ahead, John.
doing is just trying to find out where we're going to plant, where the area is best to plant at this point.
Okay, that's fine.
When we,
But again,
when we go to do an inventory and assessment, that'll be another big, where
Right.
you're going to have an arborist to come in.
Yeah, right
Another-
now we're looking just at vacancies, I guess.
Yes, yes.
Yeah.
all right.
So,
And Wendy did indicate, you know, like we're new and we don't know a lot and it's gonna take, you know, a couple of years to get there.
Yeah.
You know, because one of the other things I'm hearing here is maybe we may need to spend some money on an arborist at some point in this process.
That's a good
Eventually,
point.
yes.
I've thought about that
Yes.
too.
You know, because, and I will tell you that if we do this right, there may be private contributions available for this type of stuff.
And
You know,
I have several people who are arborists who are willing to come in to do the tree inventory
okay,
for, so we can break it down into sectors.
right,
In the past, University of Cincinnati, we're going to have people, and I met with all them and all the him, and next thing you know, I asked the previous mayor, hey, where's all this? Things went to the wayside. It was more work than they intended, I guess.
all right.
So, but yeah,
I-
we've had it a couple times. Steve Sanford did it, and Tom also did a partial, and then he was cut off. So we've
I
got
think
some at that point.
I think we're all on the same page that we want to see things different.
Yes,
And so let's figure out how to do things different. And money is a challenge, but I don't think it's an absolute block to do what we think we need to do.
correct.
And
And
so we just have-
there's other communities that have arborists
Mhm.
that are more than willing to come in to help us out when we need it on a
Okay.
contractual basis. Hey, you get X amount of dollars, see what we can get with that much money, whatever.
Right.
So there's ways to do that.
All right. So assisting the development of a near-term plan, 1 to 5 years for the planting, pruning, and removal of street trees. That just, you know, you can have the master plan is what I'm calling it, which is kind of like the overall 40,000 foot view of what we're trying to do. But then you get a little more granular in what do you really want to do in the next 1 to 5 years?
Yes.
So we know we're making progress. Monitor village spending on street trees and make recommendations for changes in annual spending levels as appropriate. We kind of talked about that today again. Again, I think that's a function of the tree committee. The people on council don't know if we're spending the right amount or wrong amount, because we're not going to get into as much details what the tree committee is going to get into. That's what we want a tree
Well,
committee.
I will say
that-
once the village finally decided to give 50,000 per year,
Mhm.
I was ecstatic.
Okay.
And that helped us get our last growth award because of that. But, because before then they didn't have, you're on your own. Good luck.
Well,
When was that, John?
I'm sorry.
When was that growth award?
We've gotten 3. I think the last one might have been 2001, 2003. I'll have to look that up.
Okay.
And really the growth award is basically about education. So I might be able to file this year and try to maybe take Wendy out for lunch and stuff and say, hey, look, I need you to do this, this, and this, and pass it along to the big boys and see what they say, So we'll see. But yeah, we've had at least 3 years, but it's more on the education and that. And it used to be you had to improve your tree funding each year, whether it's been by $1 or $100 or whatever. As long as you increase it by $1 and you can prove all this stuff and send all the documentation in, then they pretty much give you the growth award. Unfortunately, under previous administration, we never really worried about that kind of stuff. Just get it done, do it, and file it, and be done. So I'm hoping as things get going here with the tree board, that things will start progressing a lot more. It actually helps us with our insurance, by the way, being a Tree City USA, because when we do have branches in storm damages that come up through hitting houses or cars or whatever, because we're so proactive, it helps us with the lawsuits that we've come up against. Previous administration, depending who's who, lawsuits went through or they didn't go through. So it just depends.
All right.
We'll keep moving.
All right. So assist the village in obtaining grants and contribution for street trees. I mean, I think the tree committee will figure out where there might be some money available in the
Yes.
course of their educational process.
And
A lot more.
That'll help when we're working with MPF because they're the 5013C deal.
Right.
People,
right.
if they want to donate, can go through them.
Right. Coordinate and promote Arbor Day activities.
Yes.
That's just one of the things that's required by the tree committee or by the Tree City process. review contractual agreements for street trees and make recommendations for changes to mayor as needed. And the only reason I put this in here is I would like the tree committee to take this on as one of their duties to just, do we have the right contractual arrangements out there with the vendors we're using? Because I don't want to have to burden council members with trying to figure that stuff out,
Yeah.
At this point, I think you're using Davy for most of the work. And
Yes.
so, I think the tree committee, that's completely within their ability to take a look at that and become comfortable with that, with those
Okay.
arrangements.
So now, years ago, we decided, we did an inventory of all the sections like we do with the council people who represents each area. We went out to bid. A certain company got the bid. Once everything was said and done, we found out they missed half the stuff because whoever came out did their bidding supposedly didn't find the tree. So we have 3825 settled, let's just say, or on a corner house or let's use Marianne or Mary Beth's house. 67, what is yours? 6767? Wooster? She's on mute.
6767
Okay.
Worcester.
So we look at her house and we say, okay, we need the trees in the front pruned, the 2 trees in the front pruned, the one on West Street is a removal. So when this guy came in, they did all the stuff. All of a sudden he says, well, I'm thinking, hey, all this stuff is still here. Well, this was a big tree that needed a crane to take it out because it was so big. And I can't remember where it was. I don't remember. I can't remember where that was. Anyway, speed things on. They were the lowest bid up until the time that we found out that they didn't take all the trees that we said were, well, we didn't have that in our thing. I said, well, here's the specs. Here's what we said. Here's this. And here's your bid on section 1, 3, 4, and 5. And nowhere does it say that you could not find a tree. So you need to take that out. Well, that cost that gentleman over I think it was $2,500 with the crane and everything. And he was highly upset. Pros and cons. Okay, Davy Tree was always the lowest. They have a government group. So if Marianne or Mary Beth decides, hey, I need this tree out of my house, this pine tree that's on her property, if she goes directly to Davy's, she's going to get one price. If she got the government discount, it's almost 40% off of that same tree. So this is why Cincinnati has never deviated from Davy Tree. When they deviated from Davy Tree, they've been sued 3 times already. And if you remember where there's one tree that was sitting there for so long, the company never got it out. They ended up saying, hey, you violated the contract. We're going to Davy Tree. The tree fell as soon as the lady drove home from her church, crushed her and killed her. Then there was a major lawsuit because that X has been on there for over a year. They knew it was a dangerous tree and everything else. Staying with the same company, Davy Tree would have been the lowest if they didn't have to, because this other company didn't bid the whole thing, which we didn't know. So, other pro, we have a storm, Hurricane Ike comes through the village. There's only so much that we can do with the piece of equipment that we have.
Hey, John, we're
I
getting
call
at
up, they said, hey, we got you a crew. There's pros and cons. If you deal with different companies that might be low, when you get a major issue, they're going to say, screw you, we hardly deal with you, we're not coming in.
John,
So I mean, there's pros and cons.
John, we're getting in a lot more detail on this than we probably need to on this
Right.
meeting. I'm just saying that I think it's a good process for the tree committee to review those agreements. And
Okay.
again, a lot of the stuff you're saying, will be taken into consideration, and they may say, fine, stay with Davy.
Yeah.
But
I
I
got
don't want that burden to be on the council members to be the review on that when we've got a tree committee that's looking at stuff in significant detail.
I got you. I'm sorry.
All right. So the next item is support public awareness and educational programs related to trees. It's a natural for the tree committee, and this will also help the the public become aware of the, the challenge that we have in front of us, and will also probably lead to contributions. I mean, so, but, again, it'd be one of the duties of the tree committee. Review and address concerns and issues relating to street trees. So if somebody calls up and they got a problem with something that's going on, we'll probably forward those, questions and stuff to the tree committee to take a look at. I mean, again, having a group of people who have immersed themselves into all these details, let them make these recommendations about what we should be doing, instead of, putting that burden on the mayor, who, may not be as deep into all this tree stuff as what the tree committee is going to be.
Yeah,
Hey,
look
Joe,
how gray he is.
So
tonight.
hold up a minute, not to interrupt, but on that point, if a resident calls me with a question of a tree question, so to speak, if it's a safety issue, I mean, then I've got to weigh in on it right then and there.
Right.
I agree.
Yes. So you call
okay,
the person that you respect to handle that situation.
Yeah, I'm just saying, if it's a safety issue, I can't take the time to run it through the tree committee.
Yeah,
No.
Right.
Let me add a little bit of a disclaimer on that one for safety issues on that point. Okay, but again, the tree committee is going to, my view is the tree committee is going to figure out some of the guidelines and the policies that we're going to follow in this village.
Yes.
And so when somebody pops up and they don't like, having gumballs to rake in their yard, that probably ain't going to get through the policy or the standards that we're going to be developing off this process.
Yes.
So it takes the politics out of it a little bit by having a committee that's addressing stuff for the village at all.
I agree.
All right. So the next section is consistent changes to sections of the Mariemont Code of Ordinances related to street trees. We definitely need this to change some of those ordinances around that's in there right now, but I think that's beyond the ability to do this in this committee meeting. But I think the tree committee can help assist the Rules and Law Committee figure out what do we need to change in that code of ordinances, so I would say that, it's something that they can help in that process. This is the other thing we talked about earlier, development of bylaws regarding the operation of the Tree Advisory Board. I think the Tree Advisory Board will figure it out faster than we will about how they're going to operate. And I don't think it's, makes sense for us to dictate that. Just say the goal is you need to come up with your own bylaws and follow.
Yep.
Assist with the annual application to renew the Tree City designation. That's something that's straight out of the recommended board duties that was on the Arbor Foundation website, and then the catch-all other duties that may be assigned by Village Council. So can anybody else think of anything else we should put in there for duties?
No, actually, this has been very good. I forwarded this to Wendy and she was very, very impressed with the whole thing.
Well, I've got a new career coming as Tree Advisory Board organizer.
Senior president.
All right. The final thing I put in there was something about the education. Members of the tree board that lack specific relevant education or training in the management of urban trees, I'm not sure if I like that, will be expected to participate in some form of relevant former education or training during their term on the board.
Yes.
Pretty generic, but it just says, please get yourself educated somehow on this stuff if you don't come to the table with that knowledge initially.
So Wendy she started this Tree City USA board, the TCA board, and it's a freshman class, like it might be in the fall. Then you get a freshman class, sophomore class, and senior class. I went through it. It's $35 for each class. I mean, it's very, and they go into very, very major detail on everything. I mean, I felt so stupid when I went in there. She'll give you a test to see what your knowledge is of trees. And then after your first test and all the red pen ink and all the markings wrong, it's like, oh my God, what the hell did I even waste my time coming here for? But no, this has been a major program through ODNR. They've adopted it now throughout all the areas that they've come up with. And so because of the COVID, things have changed a little bit. Montgomery is a big supporter of it. Mariemont can come as a supporter. Hey, you request this, you give them the lunch. You have, I think there's 25 of us in a class or whatever, but it's very, very knowledgeable. I mean, it's just amazing, the detail. I mean, if you want to really get into really, really, really nitpick every little thing, that's this class about it. So,
Hey,
but
Barb.
yeah, and I encourage it. And the park advisory board, Louise was going to do it, but because of different things that came up, her schedule and all that, I know Barb's been involved. She's been what, freshman class?
Yeah, I've
Have you
just been
done
freshman.
sophomore yet?
No, it was in the wintertime and we
Sophomore is
were
when you're
gone.
out of town. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, and then
If
that's
there's a
something that we
virtual
can,
one, I'm good.
Yeah,
yeah. So,
John, I didn't want to, I knew that existed, but I didn't want to put that in as a requirement. I mean, when the tree advisory board gets cooking, they can come up with that if they want to. It's
oh
very
yeah,
specific. You're going to go
yes,
do this, but I
yes.
didn't, I just left it very broad at this point. And,
Yeah.
and again, this is what council's going to sign off on about what is expected from the tree advisory board is some form of relevant formal education. So,
I'm with you all the way, Joe.
you leave some flexibility in there, to figure out how you do the implementation is kind of what the
Nope.
idea is here.
Nope.
All
I
right.
think everything's good.
All right. Marcy, Avia, do you have anything else on that? Because I'll type through some changes on this and then attach it to the final report.
I was just gonna ask John if Wendy had suggested any changes.
No, no, the only thing,
Yeah,
no,
we haven't really talked yet.
no. Membership, the only thing she mentioned is membership. You want to keep the board as small as you can, within 5 or whatever. You can have as many members as you want, or associates or whatever. And she said the more people that want to be involved, the greater it is, especially if they want to volunteer to help properly prune. She's more than willing to come in, because her and my relationship has been great over the past several years. To bring the membership, when she does all the tree board stuff, they always go out to a community to work in that community. And I've offered her, I said, hey, look, I don't have the budget like these big cities do. If you want to bring your tree board in, we planted all these trees on Center Street. If you want to do proper pruning, come to Center Street. Come to our island with the elms that we just planted and do the proper pruning for me. And she's more than willing to do it. Not that I take her out to lunch and that has anything else to do with it, all that kind of stuff at Mio's. But no, Wendy's really willing to work with us, get a good program going, and get us to for our future and stuff like that. And like I said, with the classes and stuff that she teaches, she knows how much. She's already been in working with Louise about removing the honeysuckle in the area, because there's a group of people that work with her through DNR. I can't think of the name. And I've talked to Maggie about it as well because of Miami Bluff, saying, hey, look, if you decide to do the volunteer thing, at least ask Wendy. Her group of people will be more than willing to come in on a Saturday to help wipe it all out. Because we all know the honeysuckle is a killer amongst the regular trees because of the disease it passes out through the roots. So, but and more communities like Sims Township, they're finding out that she has this little community group, and they've all been asking. Indian Hill has now wiped out from Camargo Road all the way up through Remington Road, has wiped out all this honeysuckle.
I was
it's
wondering
amazing.
why they did all that.
Yes.
On Bloom, yeah.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
honeysuckle is a very bad weed, basically. And what happens is through the roots of the honeysuckle, it gives out a disease. It kills all the natural plants throughout the area at that time.
Right.
So wisteria, we've got it at the what's the stuff that grows down there in Georgia?
Kudzu.
Kudzu. We actually had that behind the concourse. And Louise and I cut and cut and cut, and we dug probably about 25 feet of root space of that kudzu out of there. So how that got up here, who the hell knows? But if you can use those people like Wendy has, those volunteer groups that she's got going, it won't cost us anything to get rid of the stuff. And we have volunteers that'll do it too. Sabo and Louise and her group. So I think with the tree board, I think, the problem we've had in the past was we use the park advisory board as our tree board. Well, they're talking about the parks and everything they're doing in the parks and very little about trees. And that's where she said, hey, look, you're on a very, very fine line of, as far as not becoming a tree city anymore. So this is why when we went through the new administration, I went to Mayor Brown and said, hey, look, Louise wants to get out of this. They don't want to be any part of this. They just want to deal with the parks and take care of the parks. We're going to start a new tree board, and this is how this is all developed. And I think this is great. I'm glad that council finally, after 21 years, has decided to say, hey, yeah, we need to start looking at our tree structure and start looking at things and get a good plan and get it back together again. And I'm all for it. So,
All right, so the second piece of this is that, you know, the possible members of the tree committee, because right now the tree committee, nobody has gone through the approval process from council. So.
correct. Well, we
and
never
so-
had that though. We
okay,
never had that really through council, except for back in the 80s, Mayor Adams had a tree council.
Okay, but in theory, council needs to weigh in on activities involving property within the village of Mariemont.
Yes.
And so what we're going to try to do right now is cover that base by letting council see what the structure of the tree committee is, and then, you know, giving them a list of potential members, and the council decide who, you know, is actually on that committee. It's probably going to be the same people that are on it right now, but we have to go through that to, you know, comply
Yes.
with the law, because this is involving village property.
Yes.
And so what I've got here is potential possible members of the tree committee is Mary Beth, Marcy, Karen, Brad Lockhart. I've talked to both Jason Brown Knight and Martin Kepke, and they're both interested in participating in this process. I have not been able to get a hold of Marianne Prue, who is the urban forester for the city of Cincinnati, lives on Belmont. I've left her
Yes.
2 messages. I'll try again this week.
Yeah, she's very busy.
Okay,
Yeah.
but again,
I've talked to her.
okay, that's a potential.
So
And
we
I'm gonna-
can't we don't want to use Marcy as probably being on the board itself because she's council. So she could be
No.
the council representative.
And again, you guys can figure out how to structure it if you want to do
Okay.
it that way, but I'm okay with having one member of council, you know, as a representative who can carry the message back to the regular council. And, you know, in the past, we've always done this goofy thing that I think is goofy, is say that the chairman of the Health and Rec Committee automatically is on the pool committee. Or,
Oh yeah,
you know,
sucker, you're there.
well,
All
no,
in
no.
favor, say aye. Aye.
No,
You passed.
I'm a big believer in
Yes.
you pick the right council person to go into that specific board. You know, that the council person has some knowledge in that area or has a desire to be in that area. It shouldn't
And
be
that's-
hardwired,
No.
you know, like
And
we've
that's
done in the
Marcy.
past.
And
Right.
she loves trees because we butted heads numerous times over her trees.
Right.
I don't remember numerous times. I remember once or twice.
So
Oh, there's still
again,
one still hanging.
I
And-
know.
and Avi and Marcy, I'm doing a lot of talking here. I want to make sure you're on that same page too, that, you know, we should be making, you know, selections of council members to be in essence the liaison or serve on these committees that have an interest in the area or have a knowledge in the area. It shouldn't just be hardwired, because it limits our ability to move people around as far as who's the committee chairman of Health and Rec, you know?
Yes.
Right.
Yep.
I
Totally
agree.
agree. Totally
I
agree.
agree. And quite frankly, this right now, of the three of us, I have the most time to do it,
And that's something that we can put in there. Anyone on council who wants to be on the tree board to represent council, we can have it that way as well. I mean, just a general type thing. That way for the future, if Marcy decides, her and her husband decide to move out of Mariemont, and there's somebody else on council that decides, oh, I really love trees, I really like to be there, even though they're not health and rec, let them be the representative.
But that's fine. You know, just we got a council representative and whoever it is, and that they're
Yes.
appointed to it and away they go. All right. So
Yeah.
is there anybody else that you're aware of that's interested in or would be a good fit for this tree advisory board?
I know Courtney Cheeser has mentioned he would like to be on there, who was a former council member. There's Avia. You remember the lady on Nolan, Maggie, Margaret
Jevick,
Yes.
Jevitt.
Jevitt,
That's who
yeah.
it is.
Oh, Margaret
Yeah.
Jevick, she just had a baby.
she just
Oh,
had
is
a
that right?
second baby.
So
Yeah.
she was one because she's had a lot of questions about why the trees they have there where they're at. And I explained to her, and she goes, that makes sense. And I told her what we were doing about getting a tree advisory board. And she goes, well, if you need extra people, I'd be more than happy to help out. So,
You'd be good.
but I'll get, you give me, I'll reach out to Martin and John Bentley, Martin Kepke and John Bentley. And then,
Yeah, that was the other name I was going to mention.
and if you can give me the other, shoot, what was his name? You
Jason
just mentioned Brownite. Yes. If you give me his info, I'll reach out to him.
I've already talked to Martin and John, and they're all in.
Okay.
Yeah, but again, I told them both, this is all subject to council approval. So,
So what I'll do is I'll take everybody's names that we've got, and we're going to have another meeting December 2nd. So I'll invite everybody there and then try to find out who wants to do what.
Hold on, John. The
As far as the
process
board.
is we have to put this in front of council, and council has to decide who's going to serve on the board.
Right.
I mean,
But let me get all the names of all the people who want to be on the actual board versus who wants to just to help out on the tree board.
Joe,
Yeah, go ahead. Karen?
take this opportunity. I'm going to step back from this. I think some of the people you've mentioned are a lot more knowledgeable. I will be part of that group to help, and I can do the legwork on this survey, which we're working on as a group. Only because I'm on the pool commission, and that's got a lot of work ahead of it. And I'm president of Garden Club. And when COVID's over, we spend most of the summer in Vermont.
Okay.
So
Right.
I think
that's
at this
fine.
time, I would like to step away, not have my name put on as a board member.
Okay.
And again, I think the question that we have to ask both Courtney and Margaret, hey, listen, we are going to, not suggest, but kind of require some education in the process. And are you willing to do that?
Right.
So, I mean, everybody loves to serve on the boards, but the reality is on this one specifically, it's going to take a little bit of time to, get some knowledge to be able to make a contribution in this procce.
Right.
Which
Well, that's what I said. If we can get the 5 people on the board, the rest can all be members on the commission, which is fine. At least we have the 5 main people that want to really get into detail. The other ones want to help advise and all that kind of stuff and assist. So,
All right, and I think I know of one other person I need to run down that has expressed an interest, but I need to talk with them just to see exactly what their, what
And that's
their
fine.
interest level is.
yeah.
But this is where we're going to have a list of potential candidates to give to council, and then they can decide, this is not my call, it's not Marcy's call, it's not obvious, it's council's going to decide, who goes on these boards, and that's, the process we use for a lot of other stuff. But again, the council is going to take the recommendations from this group already. I mean, this is kind of
Yes.
what we did with the pool commission.
Yes.
We really didn't go seeking a lot of people from the outside because and that was a weird deal because we had a pool advisory board and we had the pool commission, and we needed to merge the two up. And when we kind of said, hey, there's going to be a lot of work, we had 4 or 5 people say, hey, listen, I don't have time for that right now. And so these are not going to be ceremonial boards. These are going to be working boards.
Yes.
And so when people get involved, they're going to have to be willing to dedicate some time.
Yes. And when I reach out to them, I'll let them know what's
Okay.
going to be, what's
right.
entitled. So,
All right, cool.
I think
So
we're good.
you're John, you're going to contact Courtney and Margaret and let them know what's
Yes.
expected. Okay.
And like I said,
then,
if you give me John Bentley's info, I got Martin's.
okay.
I guess I can get John. I might have John Bentley.
So John Bentley, Bill, he's on the ARB already.
Yeah, that's correct.
Do you think we're overloading, John?
Well, I mean, look, ask him.
Okay.
Well,
I
even
don't,
if we-
personally, I don't think so, but
Hey, Joe, even if he comes just as a member instead of being on the board, that'll be okay. Because as a member, he can come whenever he can.
right.
So,
All right. Very good.
It might be all right.
Hey, John, just maybe as a member, my neighbor, Kristen Vanskoy, she's a I don't know, a certified gardener or something.
Oh,
she
great,
might be
another
very,
one.
very
Okay.
interested in this.
Okay.
So we would have two classifications, members versus board.
Yes. Yes.
Okay. And you said it was Kristen Van Scoy? Okay.
Oh, you froze. You froze there. I didn't hear you.
I froze.
Van Scoy.
Van
Van
Scoy.
Scoy, got it.
Yeah, I got that. And then what did Joe say?
No, I just was getting that name from Bill. All right.
Okay, I got you.
All right. Anybody have anything else then at this point? I think it's been very productive. I think we're making progress. And when's your next tree committee or tree advisory board meeting?
December 2nd. So I can send it to everybody.
So in theory, we're going to be able to get this in the next council meeting and we could have the approvals and everything. And so you could have your regular board meeting with everybody on the 2nd.
Yes.
We'd just have to do an emergency measure to make the appointments, but that's probably okay.
I don't think we have to do an emergency because this year for Tree City is already taken care of. So this is basically working on for next year.
Okay.
I'll verify it with Wendy, but I think this is all for next year's Tree City.
I would rather
So-
get everybody together and get you cooking. Just, make December 2nd, your official meeting and you're moving,
Well, we've already
Yeah.
had two official meetings
Okay.
per Wendy. So this would be our third meeting. So
All right.
then I just have to type out the notes for the second meeting. And since Mary Beth York didn't like how I said a couple things, I had to make a couple corrections. But anyway, so
What?
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 So I had to revise that by 2 words. So anyway,
So
so-
do we,
Corrections to
wait-
the
wait a minute.
minutes. I don't know what to tell you. That's called corrections to the minutes, John. I'm sorry.
okay, dear.
so what I'm
Okay.
hearing is not only do we need a chair, vice chair, secretary, but we need a referee appointed with this group.
Well, you know what? She tried to cross the street. Nobody would stop to let her cross the street. I said, if you're younger and prettier, they'd probably stop real quick.
Ouch.
Whoa.
I know,
So-
isn't that painful?
Yeah.
He's like
John,
a big brother, a big mean brother, and I had 2 of those, so I could handle him.
Okay.
John, all I can say right now is you're lucky this is a virtual call. Because if you're in the
Closed
same,
meeting.
in the same
Yeah.
room, you may be nursing a black eye at this point.
This is nothing worse than what the last meeting was like. So we're good.
All right, cool. Anything else then?
No, you did well.
I appreciate everybody joining and, hopefully we can get this thing cooking and start making lots of progress on trees.
Yes. Before you retire.
We'll
council.
see. We'll see. All right, thank you all.
All right.
Thanks. Bye.
All right,
Joe,
bye.
bye.